Welcome back to another episode of the DFS Express presented by Loudmouth MMA, MMAtoday.com, and the DFS Army. I am your host, the Daily Fantasy Sniper, and on tap we have UFC Liverpool. It is the UFC's first trip to Liverpool, England. The main event is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and the hometown guy, Darren Till. Before we get started, please, as always, give me a follow on Twitter at the DFS Sniper, 1S. Check out all the sponsors I mentioned, Loudmouth MMA Podcast. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can get all kinds of great episodes there, including this episode. You could be listening to it on that channel, MMA-today.com, a new source, not a new source, but a different type of source for MMA content, not just UFC, Bellator, One, Legacy, all that stuff, really global MMA coverage, and the DFS Army. If you play a daily fantasy sports player, which I assume is why you are watching or listening to this, make sure and check out all their content for every sport. Become a VIP member. Use the code SNIPER for 10% off this month and every month of your membership. I've been saying this a lot lately, but thank you guys for putting up with those intros. I know sometimes on podcasts they can be a little annoying, but the support to all those sponsors is greatly appreciated. That is enough of the intro this week. Let's get to the fights. Again, if this is your first time watching or listening to the DFS Express, DraftKings specific play is going to run through every fight in this card in under 15 minutes with a DraftKings perspective. We'll start at the main event. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at 8,400, Darren Till at 7,800. As of right now, this fight is a pick'em. The way it's trending, I suspect Darren Till is going to have the odds value and be the favorite come fight night. People are shying away from this fight, and I want to just have you hesitate for a second and just think about it. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, outside of his two fights with Tyron Woodley, is actually a good scorer for DraftKings. He has a lot of counter-strike knockouts. He only scored 75 points against Masvidal, but that was a 3-round fight. He's going to have 5 to work here. If he wins, I think the winner of this fight, regardless, scores well. I think Thompson could piece up Till for 5 rounds, score plenty of points that way in a decision. I also think Thompson is live to the knockout with his counter-striking. Until if he wins, he's going to score a knockout with his power and score relatively well as well. So I think avoiding this fight is a mistake. Stacking it is also a mistake. I would not stack in cash games. However, I think in tournaments, this fight is going to be really key to find a winner. I think it's going to score well in the mid-range. My lean right now is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I know he's on the road, but he's the much more experienced guy. His counter-striking style, to me, is made for a guy like Till who comes forward. He's going to pressure. That plays into Thompson's hands. That's why Woodley didn't engage. I think Till will engage, and Thompson is likely to use his superior striking for 5 rounds to a decision or get a finish. Darren Till is still a bit of an unknown. He's live to the knockout. Maybe he has that Conor McGregor type. He's on that meteoric rise. He's all kinds of hype. If I had to pick, and obviously that's what I'm here to do, I'm going to pick Thompson. I don't think that continues. I won't totally fade Till in GPP, but Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is my preferred play at 8,400. Neil Magny, 9,500, taking on Craig White, 6,700. We know Neil Magny has been around a long time. He's made improvements in his game. Had a good win against Carlos Condit last time out. Did lose to RDA. Craig White is an RDA. He's been in Cage Warriors. He's taken this fight on short notice. Really, in the co-main event spot, he's an exciting fighter. He's aggressive. I think he's going to push the pace, or he's going to try to. And I think it's going to be kill or be killed. I think Magny wins here. The problem on this card is the pricing is so tight. There's not a ton of underdogs they really like. So fitting in Magny is going to be a challenge, but he is the preferred play. I think he wins. I don't know about the score. 9,500 is a lot. Craig White I'll reserve for GPPs because he's going to come forward and press, and just in case he gets the knockout, he'll end up on the optimal lineup at 6,700. That being said, Magny can score takedowns to a win. He can use his length and outstrike White. All around, he's the better fighter. He's the preferred play at 9,500. Arnold Allen, 9,200. Mads Burnell, 7,000. This fight is interesting because I think it's going to be grappling-based. Allen looks for takedowns in his fights. Mads Burnell is a power BJJ guy. I think Allen is just more polished, and if the fight stays on the feet, if the grappling neutralizes each other, I think Allen, picks his way to a win here. I'm also worried about Burnell's gas tank. It's a big cut for him to 145. I do want to see what he looks like on Friday. If he misses weight badly, meaning he didn't try and get there, that could sway me a little bit. Mads Burnell is live. I think if he wins, it's going to be grappling based. Arnold Allen, though, I think is the better fighter. And the upside to Burnell isn't enough for me to make him my preferred play. I'll take Arnold Allen at 9,200. Jason Knight at 8,300. Makwan Americani, 7,900. In addition to Till and Thompson, this is the other fight that I really think you're going to need exposure to in GPPs, and it's going to be a key to the night. And I started off very high on Americani. I bet him actually early in the week when I thought the line was way off at like plus 175. And not that I'm totally regretting it, but watching more tape, he has a hard time holding position. We saw it in the Arnold Allen fight. There's going to be some scrambles in this fight, and both guys are going to score well. I think they're going to be willing to grapple and engage, and I'm just concerned about Americani's ability to hold position. Jason Knight, though, did not look good against Mowgli Benitez. One of those, they're going to grapple. You have to have one of these guys. I think Knight is the better positional grappler. My pick to win the fight, I'm actually leaning back towards Knight just because of, as I said, his ability to hold position, and striking wise, I think he might be a little better. We've seen Americani get caught before in the regional scene. It's a close fight. It's a pick 'em for me. I'm going to have exposure to both sides, and because he's cheaper, my preferred play is going to be Makwan Americani at 7,900. But a really close fight overall. Manny Bermudez, 8,800. David Grant, 7,400. Finally, a fight that I'm not going to be at all wishy-washy on. I like Manny Bermudez a lot here. David Grant got subbed out by Damian Stasiak. Manny Bermudez is a better grappler than Stasiak. Grant has a hard time handling pressure. That's what Bermudez is going to do. I like the price tag a lot for Manny Bermudez at 8,800. Eric Spicely, 8,700. Darren Stewart, 7,500. A fight that I'm on Eric Spicely, and it scares me a lot. He's burned me in both directions before. I had him against Mearshart. That didn't work out well. I had Thiago Santos against Eric Spicely, and obviously that didn't work out well. Darren Stewart, though, has gotten subbed out in the UFC his last two fights, Carl Roberson and Julian Marquez. Spicely's better submission grappler than both of those guys. Have pressure. Spicely has to get it to the ground. I think he can here against Stewart. Stewart is not all that good. I think this should be his last fight in the UFC, although I think I heard somewhere he signed a new deal. This is just a bad matchup for him. He's going to need a lower level fighter like Spicely, but not one who excels on the ground. So I'd like Spicely a fair amount in this matchup. That does worry me, but stylistically, he is the play at 8,700. Nordine Taleb, 9,100. Claudio Silva, 7,100. A lot of people saying Claudio Silva is a viable punt play. I would agree, except he hasn't fought in 3.5 years. Injuries, pulled fights, like 7,100. I know he's a grappler. Nordine Taleb is a specimen. He's tough to get to the ground. Taleb is an elite striker. He's a tri-star guy. Sometimes those guys don't score great. He hasn't done all that badly. A great finish against Danny Roberts last time out. I like Taleb a bunch in this matchup. Being out for 3.5 years is just something that's I'm going to steer clear of, and if it's something that burns me, that's what burns me, but that kind of variance is not something I'm looking to invest in. Nordine Taleb is the preferred play at 9,100. Tom Breeze, 9,000 against Daniel Dadbod Kelly, 7,200. Obviously, it's not his real nickname, Tom Breeze, though. I think walks through Dan Kelly here. Breeze has got a lot of hype behind him. Dan Kelly, though, has a penchant for just taking a beating, walking through it, and eventually winning. I don't think that's going to happen here. Tom Breeze lost last time out to Sean Strickland. He's been in a bit of a break, though. He's had some injuries, a little short of 2 years. It's really the difference between this fight and the last one is that deterioration of Dan Kelly. I don't think Breeze is going to want to close distance and grapple because Kelly has that judo background. Overall, though, I think Breeze puts him away with his big punching power. I think it'll be a third straight loss to Dan Kelly. He was knocked out by Derek Brunson. I think just that deterioration is going to show itself. The rising star of the local guy in Tom Breeze will show itself. I like Breeze here probably to get a finish, and he's the preferred play at 9,000. Next up is Bradley Scott, 7,600 against Carlo Peter Sali, 8,600. This one is tough because Peter Salle is an interesting prospect, cage warrior guy, taking this fight on short notice, but he fought 3 weeks ago in a decision against Nicholas Dalby. It was a tough fight. He's a creative, flashy striker. He goes for subs. Bradley Scott, on the other hand, he's a really low-level UFC guy. He got run over by Jack Hermanson last time out. He beat Scott Askham, lost to Christoph Jacko. It's one of those... Peter Salle should win the fight, and he's the one who's more live to any kind of finish. I think if Scott wins, it'll be a decision, or maybe Peter Salle wears down. Peter Salle is preferred play at 8,600 because I think he's overall just a better fighter, a better prospect. My worry is that fight 3 weeks ago, so for that reason, it's going to be reserved more of a GPP play, but I'll take Peter Salle at 8,600. Molly Meatball McCann, 8,900. Jillian Robertson, 7,300. Obviously, listen to this episode. We are hurting for underdogs. This is one where I'm going to take a shot here. Molly McCann from Liverpool, fighting in her hometown, is a favorite, making her UFC debut. She's a good fighter, another cage warrior fighter making her debut. The problem is that she's just okay from what I've seen. She's on this card because she's from Liverpool. And even in fights when she's a big favorite, she gets in these funny spots and can give away fights. I don't know how good of a fighter she is. At 8,900, and the line being where it is, where at time of recording this, look it up real quick, she is a minus 245 favorite. To me, that feels like too much. Jillian Robertson subbed Emily Whitmire last time out, got good grappling, trains at ATT, all those things together that she's going to look to grapple. Comes from a good camp against a fighter making her UFC debut. She is my preferred play and my lean at 7,300, especially in cash games. Elias Theodorou, 9,400, taking on, I almost said Travis. It is Trevor Hot Sauce Smith at 6,800. Theodorou is a big favorite. The problem here is that it's tough to predict how Theodorou is going to score. He does a lot of point fighting. He's the definition of a point fighter. He scored okay last time out, 94 points. Big favorite again. I wonder if the way Trevor Smith wins this fight is he kind of just, he wears you down. He can get takedowns. I don't think he's going to be able to take Theodorou down is his issue. Theodorou does have good movement, uses those kicks to keep you off of him. The front kicks, it's not a side kick that can lead to a takedown. I don't see Smith getting a takedown or holding down Theodorou. I think it's going to be another point fighting type of Theodorou performance. Maybe he gets a late finish. I'm probably not going to have a lot of exposure to this fight overall. I'm going to lean towards Theodorou as a GPP play because at that range he should go pretty underowned and maybe he finds a finish. But I'm not a believer in Hot Sauce Smith. I'll take Theodorou at 9,400. Lena Landsberg, 8,500. Gina Mazzani at 7,700. Another women's MMA fight where I'm going to lean towards the dog for DraftKings because Mazzani is going to look to grapple. I've poked fun at her other podcasts. She made her short notice debut against Sarah McMahon and got steamrolled. Last time out, she took on a Chinese girl, Yanan, I think her name was, and a bunch of takedowns in that fight. Lena Landsberg has a hard time stopping tight takedowns, and on the feet, she likes to block punches with her face. Even her one UFC win against Lucy Pudilova, she ate a lot of damage in that fight. I think Mazzani, not a great technical striker, obviously, but Landsberg likes to get hit. She'll score some points that way. She'll look to grapple. I don't think Landsberg is going to finish her in any way. My pick to actually win the fight, I'm leaning towards Mazzani at 7,700. She will clearly be the DraftKings play. She also now has odds value at time of recording this. She is at minus 110. This fight is a pick'em. Should be popular, probably a staple in your cash games for that reason. So that's UFC Liverpool for DraftKings. Again, please check out those sponsors I mentioned at the start of this episode. Good luck in your contests. I will see you next week